Captain Jack Morrison stood in front of the large view screen on the bridge of the UES horizon. The stars looked different out here, so far from Earth that the sun was just another tiny dot of light among billions. He had been doing these deep space missions for 12 years now, but something about this one felt wrong from the very beginning. The briefing from Admiral Frank Collins had been strange. Usually, the Admiral would give them detailed information about what they were looking for and what they might find. This time, he had just handed Jack a sealed data packet and said they would find anomalous energy readings in the Kepler 442 system. When Jack had asked for more details, the Admiral had looked uncomfortable and said that was all he knew. Jack turned away from the view screen and looked at his crew. Lieutenant Karen Webb was studying the navigation charts at her station. She had been with him on 6 missions, and he trusted her completely. She was smart, careful, and never panicked under pressure. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her green eyes were focused on the data streaming across her monitors. At the communications station, Danny Price was running system checks on their long-range sensors. Danny was young, maybe 25, but he was the best communications officer Jack had ever worked with. He could pull signals out of space static that other officers would miss completely. His dark hair was always messy, and he had a habit of talking to himself while he worked. Maria Santos sat at the weapons station, even though they were supposed to be on a peaceful reconnaissance mission. Maria was tough, with short black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. She had grown up on the Mars colonies and knew how to fight. Jack was glad she was with them, even if he hoped they would not need her skills. The ship's computer announced that they were approaching the outer edge of the Kepler 442 system. Jack had been to dozens of star systems, but he still felt excited every time they reached a new one. Space was so big, and there was always something new to discover. Karen, what are you seeing on the sensors? Jack asked. Karen looked up from her station with a worried expression. Captain, these readings don't make sense. The energy signatures are definitely artificial, but they're not like anything in our databases. They're too organized, too precise. Denny turned around in his chair. Captain, I'm picking up structured electromagnetic patterns. They're not random space noise. Someone or something is generating these signals. Jack felt his heart rate increase. In 12 years of deep space exploration, they had never found any signs of intelligent alien life. Earth scientists had been looking for proof that other civilizations existed, but they had never found anything definitive. How far out are we from the source? Jack asked. About 6 hours at current speed, Karen replied. The signals are coming from the 4th planet in the system. Jack made a decision. Take us closer, but keep us at maximum sensor range. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get too close. The next few hours passed slowly. The crew worked quietly, each focused on their instruments. Jack paced the bridge, stopping occasionally to look at the data streaming across their screens. The energy readings were getting stronger, and the patterns were becoming more complex. When they finally got close enough to see the 4th planet clearly, Jack felt his breath catch in his throat. The planet was surrounded by structures that were clearly artificial. They were huge, each one the size of a small moon, and they were arranged in perfect geometric patterns around the planet. Danny, are you recording all of this? Jack asked. Yes, Captain. Every detail, Danny replied, his voice shaking slightly. Maria stood up from her station and walked over to stand beside Jack. Captain, those aren't natural formations, those are ships. Jack nodded slowly. The structures were definitely ships, but they were unlike anything humans had ever built. They seemed to bend light around them, making them hard to look at directly. The hulls appeared to be made of some kind of material that changed color as they moved. How many ships are there? Jack asked. Karen was running calculations on her computer. I count at least 50 of the large ones, Captain. But there are smaller craft moving between them. Maybe hundreds altogether. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. If these were alien ships, then humanity was not alone in the universe. But more importantly, these aliens had technology that was far beyond anything humans had developed. The Ships were massive and they moved with impossible precision. Are they military vessels? Jack asked. Maria was studying the tactical data. Hard to say, Captain. They're not showing any obvious weapons, but with technology that advanced, they might not need weapons that we would recognize. Jack made another decision. All stop. Hold position at maximum sensor range. I need to think about this. The crew followed his orders, and the ship came to a stop in space. Jack looked out at the alien fleet and tried to process what he was seeing. For 12 years he had been exploring empty star systems, looking for signs of life and finding nothing but dead planets and cosmic dust. Now suddenly he was face to face with an entire alien civilization. Captain, Danny said quietly, I think they know we're here. Jack turned to look at him. What do you mean? Some of the smaller ships changed course when we arrived. They're moving in formation like they're responding to our presence. Jack felt his stomach drop. If the aliens knew they were there, then they had detected the horizon despite their stealth systems. That meant their technology was even more advanced than he had thought. Are they coming toward us? Jack asked. Not directly, Karen replied. But they're definitely aware of us? Their movement patterns changed as soon as we arrived. Jack looked at his crew. Karen was worried but calm. Danny looked excited and scared at the same time. Maria was ready for whatever might happen, her hand resting near the weapons controls. Options? Jack asked. We could try to leave the system. Karen suggested, go back to Earth and report what we found. We could try to establish contact, Danny added. Send them a signal to show we're peaceful. Or we could observe from a distance and gather more information, Maria said. Learn what we can about their capabilities. Jack considered all three options. Military protocol said they should withdraw immediately and report to Earth Command. But the scientific opportunity was incredible. This was first contact with an alien civilization, something that might never happen again. Before he could make a decision, the situation changed. One of the alien ships broke away from the main fleet and started moving toward them. It was moving faster than their sensors could track, covering the distance between them in seconds. Red alert, Jack ordered. All stations prepare for contact. The alien ship stopped just outside their sensor range. It was beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, the hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, and patterns of light moved across its surface. It was about the same size as the horizon, but it looked like it had been built by artists rather than engineers. Captain, Danny said, his voice tight with tension, they're scanning us. Jack could feel something happening, though he could not explain what it was. The air on the bridge seemed to vibrate, and there was a strange pressure in his head. All weapons powered down, Jack ordered. We're not here to fight. The alien ship hung in space in front of them, beautiful and alien and completely beyond human understanding. Jack Morrison had spent 12 years exploring the galaxy, but he had never imagined anything like this. His last routine mission had just become the most important moment in human history. Jack Morrison stared at the alien ship floating in front of them. The silence on the bridge was heavy, broken only by the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Every member of his crew was holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Captain, Karen whispered, what do we do now? Jack had been trained for many situations, but first contact with an alien civilization was not one of them. The military handbook had procedures for hostile encounters, equipment failures, and natural disasters. But there was nothing about what to do when you met beings from another world. We wait, Jack said quietly. Let them make the first move. Danny was monitoring all communication frequencies, his hands moving quickly over his controls. Captain, I'm not picking up any radio signals from their ship. No electromagnetic transmissions at all. Maybe they don't use radio, Maria suggested. With technology that advanced, they might have other ways to communicate. Jack nodded. Human technology was still primitive compared to what he was seeing. The alien ship moved without any visible propulsion system, and its hull seemed to be made of materials that did not exist in human science. Should we try to send them a message? Danny asked. Jack thought about it. Standard first contact protocol. suggested sending mathematical sequences, since mathematics was supposed to be universal. But looking at the alien ship, he wondered if beings advanced enough to build something like that would be interested in basic math. Double quotes. Yes, Jack decided. Send them a sequence of prime numbers. Use all frequencies, all transmission methods we have. Danny started working on the message. Sending now, Captain. They waited. Seconds turned into minutes. The alien ship remained motionless, its surface continuing to shift and flow with patterns of light. Jack was beginning to wonder if they had made a mistake when something changed. The pressure in Jack's head suddenly increased, and he felt dizzy. Around him, his crew was having the same reaction. Karen grabbed her chair for support, and Danny's hands stopped moving over his controls. "Captain," Maria said, her voice strained, "something's happening." Then it came. Not through their communication system, not through their speakers or screens, but directly into their minds. It was like having someone else's thoughts suddenly appearing inside their heads. Welcome, small beings. We are the Harmony Collective. I am Keeper Vex. Jack felt his legs go weak. The voice was not really a voice, but somehow he could understand it perfectly. It was calm, ancient, and completely alien. Did everyone else hear that? Jack asked. His crew nodded, their faces pale with shock. The mental voice continued. We have been observing your species for many of your generations. You have developed faster than we expected. This is Captain Jack Morrison of the Earthship Horizon, Jack said aloud, not sure if the aliens could hear him. We come in peace. Peace, the concept flowed through Jack's mind, but it came with images and emotions that were not his own. He saw vast battles between species he had never imagined, civilizations that had destroyed themselves, and the terrible cost of war across the galaxy. Your species interests us, the voice said. You are young, but you learn quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. What do you mean? Jack asked. Instead of answering with words, the alien called Vex shared visions directly with Jack's mind. He saw Earth as it appeared from space, but not as he had ever seen it before. He saw the planet surrounded by a web of energy, invisible to human sensors but clearly visible to alien technology. You have been watched, Vex explained. Your wars, your expansion, your rapid development. We have records of your species going back many centuries. Jack felt a chill run through him. You've been spying on us? Not spying, observing, learning, trying to understand what you will become. More images flooded Jack's mind. He saw human colonies on Mars and the Moon, but also saw projections of what those colonies might become. He saw human ships spreading across the galaxy, but in these visions, the ships were not explorers like his own. They were warships, armed and aggressive. Those are just possibilities, Jack said. That's not who we are. The alien's response came with a wave of sadness that made Jack's chest ache. We have seen this pattern before. Species that develop technology quickly often become dangerous to others. Your mathematics are impressive, but your history is filled with conflict. Karen stepped forward. You can't judge our entire species based on our past. We're trying to be better. The mental voice turned toward her, and Jack felt the alien's attention. Shift. You are the navigator, Karen Webb. You have studied the stars and dreamed of exploring them peacefully. But you are one individual among billions. How do you know her name? Jack demanded. Your thoughts are not hidden from us, Vex replied. We can see your memories, your hopes, your fears. This is why we must speak with you now. Before you advance further. Danny suddenly spoke up. You're afraid of us. There was a long pause. Then the alien's presence seemed to grow stronger in their minds. Not afraid, concerned. Your species has great potential, but also great capacity for destruction. What do you want from us? Jack asked. The alien ship began to move closer, and Jack felt his crew tense up. But Maria kept her hands away from the weapons controls, somehow understanding that firing at this ship would be both useless and foolish. We want to show you something, Vex said. Something that will help you understand why we are concerned. The space around them began to change. The stars seemed to fade, and new images appeared in the darkness. Jack realized they were seeing a recording, or perhaps a memory, of something that had happened long ago. He saw a planet that looked similar to Earth with blue oceans and green continents. Ships launched from its surface, carrying beings that looked almost human. At first, the expansion was peaceful. Colonies were established, resources were shared, and different species worked together, but then something changed. The human-like beings began to want more. They started taking resources from other species, claiming territory that did not belong to them. Small conflicts grew into larger wars. Within a few centuries, entire star systems were burning. "This is what you think will happen to us?" Jack asked. "This is what our models predict," Vex replied. "Your species shows the same patterns. Rapid technological development, aggressive expansion, difficulty sharing resources with others." "But we haven't even met other species yet," Karen protested. "How can you know what we'll do?" "Because we have been testing you," the alien answered. "For decades we have presented your species with challenges. Wars, resource shortages, environmental problems. Each time you respond with conflict rather than cooperation." Jack felt anger building in his chest. "You've been manipulating us? Causing our problems, not causing. Observing how you handle problems that occur naturally, but the results are always the same. Your species chooses conflict over cooperation, competition over sharing. That's not fair," Danny said. "You're judging us based on our worst moments." The alien's presence seemed to consider this, perhaps, but we cannot afford to be wrong. The galaxy has been at peace for millions of your years. We cannot allow one species to destroy that peace. What are you saying?" Jack asked, though he was beginning to understand. "We are saying that your species has reached a decision point. You will soon develop the technology to travel between stars quickly. When that happens, you will either join the galactic community as peaceful members, or you will be contained." "Contained?" Maria asked. The images in space changed again. Jack saw star systems surrounded by invisible barriers, planets cut off from the rest of the galaxy. He saw civilizations that had been trapped on their homeworlds, their technology limited, their expansion stopped. "You would trap us on Earth?" Jack asked. "Only if necessary," Vex replied. "We hope it will not come to that. But the safety of the galaxy must come first." Jack looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his response. The weight of representing his entire species was crushing. One wrong word, one mistake, and humanity might never leave their solar system again. "What would we have to do?" Jack asked. "To prove we can be peaceful?" "That," Vex said, "is what we must discuss." Jack Morrison felt the alien's presence grow stronger in his mind. The bridge around him seemed to fade away, and suddenly he was somewhere else entirely. He was floating in space, but he could breathe and move as if he were underwater. His crew was beside him, all of them looking confused and amazed. "Where are we?" Karen asked, her voice somehow carrying in the emptiness. "We are in a space between spaces," Vex explained. "Here, we can share knowledge more easily. What you are about to see is the truth about your species' future." The emptiness around them began to fill with images. Jack saw Earth as he had never seen it before, but not as it was now. This was Earth in the future, maybe 50 or 100 years from now. Massive ships were launching from the planet's surface, heading out toward the stars. "Those are human ships," Danny said, pointing at the vessels, "but they're huge, much bigger than anything we've built." The scene changed, and Jack saw those same ships arriving at other star systems. At first, everything seemed peaceful. The humans were exploring, setting up colonies, meeting other species. But then the images began to change. Jack watched in horror as human colonies began to expand aggressively. They were taking resources from planets that belonged to other species. When the other species protested, the humans brought in military ships. Small conflicts started, then grew into larger wars. "This is just one possibility," Jack said. "This doesn't have to happen." The alien's response came with a wave of sadness. That made Jack's chest feel heavy. "We have run these calculations millions of times. The result is always the same. Your species will discover faster than light travel in 47 of your years. Within 2 centuries, you will be at war with at least 6 other civilizations. The images continued to flow through Jack's mind. He saw human fleets attacking peaceful worlds, taking their resources, enslaving their populations. He saw entire star systems burning as human expansion triggered larger conflicts that spread across the galaxy. "But we're not like that," Maria protested. "We're explorers, not conquerors." The scene around them changed again. Now Jack was seeing Earth's history, but through alien eyes. He saw the world wars, the conflicts over resources, the way humans had treated each other throughout their development. Every war, every act of aggression, every moment when cooperation had been abandoned for competition. Your species has been at war with itself for its entire recorded history, Vex explained. Even now, as you reach for the stars, you fight over territory and resources on your home planet. "We're trying to change," Karen said. "The space program brings people together. We work as a team out here." The alien's attention turned to her. "Yes, individuals like you give us hope. But you are few among many. Your leaders still think in terms of nations and competition. When they reach the stars, they will bring those same conflicts with them." Jack felt himself becoming angry. "You're condemning us based on possibilities? You don't know what we'll actually do." The images changed again, and Jack saw something that made his blood run cold. These were not projections of the future, but records of the past. He was looking at other species that had gone through the same development as humans. He saw a race that looked almost like humans, but with pale blue skin and larger eyes. They had reached the stars with peaceful intentions, but within a few generations they were fighting wars across multiple star systems. Their conflicts had destabilized an entire region of the galaxy. Another species appeared in the images. These beings were tall and graceful, with 4 arms and golden skin. They had started as explorers and scientists, but their rapid expansion had brought them into conflict with established civilizations. The wars that followed had lasted for centuries. "What happened to them?" Jack asked. "Some learned to control their aggressive impulses," Vex replied. "They accepted guidance from the Harmony Collective and became peaceful members of the galactic community. Others did not, and the ones who didn't?" The images showed Jack the answer. He saw star systems surrounded by invisible barriers, cutting them off from the rest of the galaxy. He saw civilizations that had been trapped on their homeworlds, their technology carefully limited to prevent them from becoming a threat to others. "You imprisoned them," Danny said, his voice filled with horror. "We contained them," Vex corrected. "They are alive, they are free to develop on their own worlds, but they cannot spread their conflicts to other systems." "That's still a prison, Jack," said. The alien's presence seemed to consider this, perhaps, but it is better than the alternative. "Some species refused both guidance and containment. They chose to fight. The images showed Jack what happened to those species. There was nothing left of them but empty worlds and scattered debris. Entire civilizations had been erased from existence." "You killed them," Maria said, her hand unconsciously moving toward her weapon. "We defended ourselves and others," Vex replied. "We did not choose to destroy them. They made that choice when they refused to accept limits on their expansion." Jack felt sick. The scope of what the alien was telling him was overwhelming. For millions of years, this Harmony Collective had been making decisions about which species lived and which died. They had been playing God across the galaxy. "How many?" Jack asked. "How many what? How many species have you destroyed?" There was a long pause. "In the past million years, 47 species have been eliminated. 312 have been contained. 1,621 have accepted guidance and joined the galactic community." The numbers hit Jack like a physical blow. Thousands of civilizations, all judged by these aliens and found wanting, and now it was humanity's turn. "What about the ones that joined your community?" Karen asked. "Are they really free?" The images changed again, and Jack saw worlds that were clearly prosperous and peaceful. Different species worked together, sharing technology and resources. There were no wars, no conflicts, no suffering that Jack could see. They are free to develop as they choose, as long as they do not threaten others, Vex explained. They explore the galaxy, they create art and science, they live in peace. Many have told us they are grateful for our guidance. But they're still controlled, Jack said. They still have to follow your rules. All civilizations have rules, Vex replied. The difference is that our rules prevent wars that would kill billions. Jack looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his response. The weight of representing his entire species was crushing. Every word he spoke could determine the fate of every human being who would ever live. What exactly are you offering us? Jack asked. We are offering you the same choice we have offered others. Accept our guidance, and your species will be welcomed into the galactic community. Refuse, and you will be contained on your home worlds until you learn to control your aggressive impulses. And if we refuse both? Then you will force us to eliminate the threat you represent. The words hung in the empty space around them. Jack felt his crew's fear and anger, but also their hope. They were looking to him to find a way out of this impossible situation. How long do we have to decide? Jack asked. The decision has already been made, Vex replied. The Harmony Council has voted. Your species will be contained unless you can convince us otherwise. What do you mean? You are here because our models showed that you might be different. You, specifically Jack Morrison. Your psychological profile suggests that you might be capable of understanding what others cannot. Jack felt a chill run through him. You've been watching me personally for many years. Your responses to crisis situations, your ability to think beyond immediate self-interest, your capacity for sacrifice. These traits are rare in your species. So what happens now? Now you must decide whether to accept our guidance or return to your world and convince your leaders to change their nature before it is too late. And if I can't convince them? Then your species will be contained, and this will be the last human ship to leave your solar system. Jack looked at his crew again. They were depending on him to find a solution that would save not just them, but all of humanity. The future of his entire species rested on his next decision. Jack Morrison felt the weight of the entire human race pressing down on his shoulders. The empty space around him seemed to pulse with the alien's presence, waiting for his answer. His crew stood beside him, their faces filled with fear and hope. I need to understand something, Jack said. You say you've been watching us for centuries, but you've also been interfering with us, haven't you? The alien's presence shifted, and Jack felt a wave of something that might have been guilt. We have guided certain events, yes, but only to observe how your species responds to challenges. What kind of guidance? Karen asked, her voice tight with anger, the space around them filled with new images. Jack saw human scientists working on projects that suddenly failed for no apparent reason. He saw military developments that were mysteriously abandoned. He saw deep space missions that were redirected or canceled at the last moment. You've been sabotaging us, Maria said, her fists clenched. We have been preventing your species from developing certain technologies too quickly, Vex explained. Your nuclear weapons, your space travel, your artificial intelligence research. We slowed these developments to give you time to mature. But that's not natural development, Danny protested. You've been controlling our progress. The aliens' response came with waves of frustration. Your species develops technology faster than wisdom. Without our intervention, you would have destroyed yourselves decades ago. Jack saw more images. Nuclear wars that had been prevented by mysterious equipment failures. Computer viruses that had stopped military AI programs. Scientists who had abandoned dangerous research after having strange dreams that warned them of the consequences. How long has this been going on? Jack asked. Since 1947, when your species first developed nuclear weapons. We realized then that you were becoming dangerous to yourselves and potentially to others. The Roswell incident, Jack said, suddenly understanding. That was you. One of our observation craft experienced a mechanical failure. We had hoped to retrieve it without being noticed, but your military found it first. We were forced to intervene to prevent your scientists from reverse engineering our technology. Jack felt his anger building. You've been lying to us our entire lives, making us think we're alone in the universe while you manipulate us from the shadows. We were trying to protect you, Vex replied. And protect others from you? By treating us like children, Karen said. By deciding what we can and can't know. The alien's presence seemed to grow colder. Children with nuclear weapons are dangerous. Children who might soon have starships are even more dangerous. Jack looked at his crew. They were all angry now, and he could understand why. Learning that their entire civilization had been manipulated for decades was hard to accept. But anger would not help them now. What's the containment going to look like? Jack asked. The images changed again. Jack saw Earth surrounded by an invisible barrier that would prevent any ship from leaving the solar system. He saw human colonies on Mars and the Moon continuing to exist, but cut off from any expansion beyond their own system. For how long? Jack asked. Until your species learns to control its aggressive impulses. Some contained species have been released after a few thousand years. Others remain contained. A few thousand years? Danny said, his voice cracking. That's longer than human civilization has existed. The alien's response was matter of fact. Time moves differently for us than for you. What seems like forever to your species is a brief moment in galactic history. Jack felt a chill run through him. These beings thought in terms of millions of years. To them, locking humanity away for a few millennia was nothing more than a temporary inconvenience. What about the guidance option? Jack asked. What would that look like? The space around them filled with new images. Jack saw human representatives meeting with aliens on massive space stations. He saw human colonies being established under alien supervision. He saw human scientists working alongside alien researchers, learning technologies that were centuries ahead of anything Earth had developed. It looks peaceful, Karen said. It is peaceful, Vex replied. Species that accept guidance are given access to technologies that eliminate scarcity. There is no need for war when everyone has enough. But there are rules, Jack said. All civilizations have rules. The difference is that our rules prevent the kind of conflicts that destroy entire star systems. What kind of rules? No species may expand beyond the territories assigned to them. No species may develop weapons capable of destroying planets. No species may interfere with the development of primitive civilizations. All conflicts must be resolved through the Harmony Council. And if a species breaks these rules, then they are contained or eliminated depending on the severity of the violation. Jack felt his hope fading. Either option meant the end of human independence. They would either be trapped in their solar system or controlled by alien overlords. There has to be another way, Jack said. The alien's presence seemed to consider this. There is no other way. These are the only options that the Harmony Council has approved. But you haven't actually asked us what we want, Maria said. You've just decided our fate based on your predictions. Your wants are irrelevant, Vex replied. Your species' nature is what matters, and that nature is aggressive and expansionist. Maybe, Jack said slowly, but maybe you're wrong about us. The alien's attention focused on him. Explain, Jack felt. His crew looking at him expectantly. He had to think fast, but he also had to think clearly. The future of humanity depended on what he said next. You say you've been watching us for centuries, Jack said. But you've also been interfering with us. How can you know what we're really like if you've been manipulating us the whole time? The alien's presence seemed to pause. We have observed your natural responses to challenges. No, you've observed our responses to challenges while you were secretly controlling parts of our development. That's not the same thing. Jack felt a spark of hope. Maybe there was a way out of this after all? You want to know what humans are really like? Jack continued. Then give us the truth. All of it. Tell us about the galactic community. Show us what's really out there, and let us make our own choice. This has never been done before, Vex replied. No species has been given complete knowledge before proving they can be trusted. Because you never gave them the chance, Jack said. You made the decision for them based on incomplete information. The alien's presence seemed to be considering this. Even if we were to provide complete information, our models show that knowledge alone would not change your species' nature. Your models are based on watching species that didn't know they were being watched, Jack pointed out. Maybe knowing the truth would change everything? Jack felt his crew's excitement building. They could sense that he was onto something. Think about it, Jack continued. Every species you've observed has developed in isolation, thinking they were alone in the universe. They expanded aggressively because they thought they had to compete for limited resources. But what if they had known from the beginning that they were part of a larger community? The alien's presence was quiet for a long moment. This is a significant risk. If your species reacts badly to complete knowledge, the consequences could be catastrophic. Then let us prove ourselves, Jack said. Give us the knowledge and the chance to show you what we can become. And if you fail, then you can contain us as planned. But if we succeed, you'll know that your models were wrong. You'll know that given the right information, humans can choose to be better. Jack felt the alien's attention focusing on him intensely. You would risk your species' future on this gamble? Our future is already at risk, Jack replied. At least this way we get to choose our own fate. The space around them began to shift and change. Jack could feel the alien considering his proposal. Weighing the risks and possibilities, you are asking us to do something unprecedented, Vex said finally. The Harmony Council would need to approve such a plan, then ask them, Jack said. Tell them that humanity wants the chance to prove itself with full knowledge of what's at stake. The alien's presence seemed to pulse with uncertainty. This is not how these situations normally proceed. Maybe that's exactly why it might work, Jack sighed. The space around Jack Morrison began to change. The emptiness filled with new presences, alien minds that felt ancient and powerful. He could sense dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all focusing their attention on him and his crew. The Harmony Council is assembling, Vex explained. What you propose has never been attempted before. They must decide if such a risk is acceptable. Jack felt his heart racing. He had managed to get the aliens to consider his proposal, but now he had to convince an entire council of beings that had been making life and death decisions for millions of years. One by one, new voices began to speak in his mind. Each one felt different, representing species and civilizations that Jack could not even imagine. The first voice was cold and mechanical. This proposal is illogical. The risk to galactic stability is too great. Another voice, warmer but firm, disagreed. Perhaps it is time to try a new approach. Our current methods, while effective, may not be the only way. A third voice, ancient beyond measure, spoke slowly. In 4 million years of maintaining galactic peace, we have never given a species complete knowledge before they proved themselves worthy. Why should we start now? Jack realized he had to speak up. Because your current method isn't really testing us fairly, he said. You're judging us based on how we act when we think we're alone in the universe, but that's not the real test. Explain, the cold voice demanded. Every species you've watched has grown up thinking they had to fight for survival because they were alone, Jack continued. They expanded aggressively because they thought resources were limited and they had to compete with others for them. But what if they had known from the beginning that they were part of something bigger? The warm voice seemed interested. Continue, Jack looked at his crew. Karen was nodding encouragingly. Danny looked nervous but hopeful. Maria was watching him carefully, ready to support whatever he said. The real test of a species isn't how they act when they're scared and alone, Jack said. It's how they act when they know the truth about the universe and understand the consequences of their actions. You assume that knowledge would change their behavior, the ancient voice said. Our experience suggests otherwise. But you've never actually tested that, Jack pointed out. You've made assumptions based on watching species that didn't have all the information. That's not a fair test. A new voice joined the conversation, this one sounding curious. What exactly are you proposing, human? Jack took a deep breath. This was it. Everything depended on what he said next. Give us complete knowledge about the galactic community, he said. Show our leaders what's really out there. Tell them about the rules, the consequences, the history of what happens to aggressive species. Then give us 50 years to prove we can change. And if you cannot change, the cold voice asked, then you contain us as planned, Jack replied. But if we can prove that humans are capable of growth when given the truth, then you'll know your models were wrong. The council was quiet for a long moment. Jack could feel them discussing among themselves in ways he could not understand. This is unprecedented, the ancient voice finally said. Maybe that's exactly why it might work. Karen spoke up. Sometimes the only way to solve a problem is to try something completely new. The warm voice seemed to consider this. There is wisdom in the navigator's words. Our methods have been successful, but they have also been limited. A fourth voice, one that felt somehow sad, joined the discussion. We have contained or eliminated thousands of species over the millennia. Perhaps it is time to see if there is another way. But the risk, the cold voice insisted. If this species fails the test and becomes aggressive with full knowledge of galactic civilization, they could cause unprecedented damage. That's why we're offering guarantees, Jack said quickly. My crew and I will stay with you as permanent ambassadors. We'll be living proof that humans can change when they understand what's at stake. You would sacrifice your own freedom? The curious voice asked. To give our species a chance at a real future? Yes, Jack said without hesitation. Jack felt his crew's surprise, but also their agreement. They understood what he was offering and why it was necessary. The council fell silent again. Jack could sense intense discussion happening beyond his ability to understand. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. In this strange space between spaces, time seemed to move differently. Finally, Vex spoke again. The council has reached a decision. Jack held his breath. Your proposal is intriguing, Vex continued. The Harmony Council has decided to attempt this experiment, but with strict conditions. What conditions? Jack asked. First, your species will be given complete knowledge about galactic civilization, including the rules that govern it and the consequences of breaking those rules. Second, you and your crew will remain with us as ambassadors and guarantees of your species' good faith. Third, your species will have exactly 50 Earth years to prove they can change their fundamental nature. And after 50 years? If your species has successfully demonstrated that they can control their aggressive impulses and follow galactic law, they will be welcomed as full members of the galactic community. If they fail, containment will be immediate and permanent. Jack looked at his crew one more time. They were all nodding. They understood what this meant. They would never see Earth again, never see their families, never return home. But they were willing to make that sacrifice to give humanity a chance. We accept, Jack said. The space around them began to shift again. Jack could feel the council members departing. But Vex remained. You have done something remarkable, Jack Morrison, the alien said. You have convinced beings who have existed for millions of years to try something completely new. I just gave humanity a fair chance, Jack replied. Perhaps. But understand that this is also a great responsibility. Your species' behavior over the next 50 years will not just determine their fate, but will also influence how we deal with other developing species in the future. Jack felt the weight of that responsibility, but also a sense of hope. For the first time since this encounter began, humanity had a real choice about their future. What happens now? Danny asked. Now, you return to your ship, and we begin the process of revealing ourselves to your world, Vex explained. Your leaders will be contacted within the next few days. They will be told everything about us, about the galactic community, about the test your species must pass. And us? Maria asked. You will come with us. You will learn about galactic civilization so that you can serve as bridges between our peoples. It will not be an easy life, but it will be an important one. Jack nodded. He had known this was the price of his gamble. When do we leave? Immediately. Time is important now. The sooner your species learns the truth, the sooner they can begin to change. The space around them began to fade. and Jack found himself back on the bridge of the horizon. But everything felt different now. He knew this was the last time he would stand on a human ship as a free man. "Captain," Corinne said softly, "are we doing the right thing?" Jack looked out at the alien ship still floating in front of them. Soon, he and his crew would board that ship and begin a new life as ambassadors to an alien civilization. They would never go home, never see their families again. But they were giving humanity something precious, a real chance to choose their own destiny? Yes, Jack said firmly. We're giving our species the greatest gift possible, the truth about the universe and the freedom to decide what to do with it. A beam of light extended from the alien ship to the horizon. Jack knew it was time to go. As he and his crew stepped into the light, Jack thought about the message that would soon reach Earth. Human leaders would learn that they were not alone in the universe. They would discover that their actions had consequences beyond anything they had imagined. And they would be given 50 years to prove that humanity could be something better than their history suggested. Jack Morrison's last mission had indeed changed everything humanity knew about war. It had shown them that the real battle was not against alien enemies, but against their own nature. And for the first time in human history, they would have the knowledge they needed to win that battle. The light surrounded them completely, and Jack Morrison began his new life as humanity's first ambassador to the stars.